Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be going over some off-market strategies, things that you can implement, going over the rules on what you have to do when dealing with off-market properties. We'll definitely be talking about that. Hopefully we have no issues. The Northwest MLS was down this morning. I did get in. They do have a large banner on their website that says that they're working with the vendor. I have stuff up now, so we will see. Hopefully, things will work out. But first thing I want to do is kind of open things up. Let's have some conversations like who's been doing off-market deals right now, that's had a lot of success. Anybody? Mr. Eric, you want to talk? How you guys been doing on your off-market properties? And you've been doing this strategy for a long time.
So we've always done quite a bit amount of off market. A lot of it is within just our network. So that we know that a lot of it is agent to agent as well.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it also is for our off market properties are through just our farming and prospecting, circle prospecting listings, and then.
Do you guys go door to door? You do letters?
Yeah.
You do postcards?
Yes.
Ads?
Yep.
All of it?
Yeah.
Video?
Yes. So it is, I think it's, for off market for us, it's always been, of course, we own, our off market focus is really just in the main area that we work, Bellevue.
Yeah.
Specifically Eastgate neighborhood.
Yeah.
The Eastgate neighborhood, South Bellevue, the neighborhood that I live in personally as well.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just with off market, it's about having a comprehensive plan of staying consistent with it.
Yes.
Kids continue to be the neighborhood expert of knowing what's the next property coming up in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strategy. It's the thing we've talked about a lot in here. What the funny thing is that, I mean, if you're going to just wait for things to come on the market from the Northwest MLS, right? You're in the same boat as almost 40,000 other licensed brokers in the state of Washington. The competition is very fierce right now. You guys hearing how all these multiple offers? I heard one place they just went over $220,000. 220, and this is prices in the sevens. This isn't the over $1 million. Like you think like in the $1 million range, definitely hear things of pricing going way over right now because of the competition. 29 offers. Someone else we just talked to this week. That was last week. 26 offers. Our broker, we had actually 3 of our brokers won last week on all multiple offers, and every single one of them, competition was 20 offers and above. So it is getting uber competitive right now. So I figured that this is a perfect time to bring on and talk about off-market properties because we have to have this in our tool belt. This has to become part of your practice. And hopefully after today, you will kind of figure this out that, okay, this is a good idea to do because not only does this give you additional deals, but it gives you a different strategy and it gives you different dialogue that you would be able to have that will actually get you more clients. Because what's going on right now? A bunch of buyers are losing, aren't they? Even sellers are losing. Even sellers are like, I don't want to list because I can't go get a home and compete because I have to sell my house before I buy one. So we're going to go over all the strategies and the things you can implement to help you really get more business. Okay. So the first thing we really got to start talking about is the how, right? We got to go over the how first on as far as like the forms, the laws, and the things that you have to have a grasp and understanding to before you get out there and start kind of like doing this. So we're going to start in on forms. Now, most of the time when you are doing an off-market strategy, who do you usually represent in those? A lot of times it's just the buyer, right? I mean, a lot of times. So first things first, what's the first thing we got to have?
buyer representation agreement.
Yeah, the buyer brokerage, services agreement or buyer agency agreement, either one, the buyer, the John L. Scott version or Northwest MLS form 41. You gotta have that in place. One rule that you must follow when you're dealing with off market. Do not do limited dual agency with off market properties. It's the fastest way and the easiest lawsuit to win. When there's no competition at all and you're representing both parties, the attorneys they'll eat you up. I mean, it's like very, very easy. So completely try to avoid that. Okay. Now, if the other party wants representation, there's nothing wrong with you giving a referral. But if you already started out with a buyer representation agreement, you're already representing somebody, you absolutely can give a referral to a seller to someone else. And it could be a high, that's not going to be a 20 or 25% referral fee. That definitely should be a little higher. I don't know that's up to you guys, whatever you decide and whatever the other person is willing to take. But that is an instant client that is immediately going to be doing business, right? So let me share my screen and we are actually going to look at some forms. I need to actually get in and grab one other form here. So having your form 41, we're not going over that because you guys clearly should understand that one by now. We talk about that one all the time. But we will talk about a 41C. Okay. When dealing with an off-market sale and you represent the buyer, right away you are going to have a 41C in the deal if you want the seller to pay any compensation. Only if seller is going to pay some compensation, okay? If the buyer broker, if has your buyer agency agreement, and on the buyer agency agreement, the buyer's already said what they are going to pay you, and they are okay paying it because you're getting them this house and it's a better deal maybe because it's not going on the market, then maybe that just you keep it that way. Then you would not include a 41C. It's just that the buyer is going to pay the compensation at closing. When that happens, we have to have one form to escrow. You guys remember what that form number is? Zoom people, anybody? We've only been doing these from the beginning of the year for the form 41s.
40 something?
It's,
40A?
got it right. 40A. It's compensation disbursement form buyer paid, right? That's the 40A. We'll have to go to escrow. So that's the demand of money from the buyer being paid to the buyer brokerage firm. Okay, so if you by chance are having the seller pay your compensation, then you will need that 41C. And I want to pull this up so you guys can see this. People get this wrong a lot. We were reviewing deals last week and saw it a couple times actually. First thing looking at this form 21. Okay, the buyer brokerage firm compensation. What would you fill in on this section? Wait, say it again, Eric.
We did other C addendum.
Yep.
And then, yeah, there's no pay as offered.
Yeah, there's nothing paid. These boxes, all three of these, basically a percent or a dollar amount offered in the listing. Is this property even listed? No, there should be nothing filled in this section. Nothing. The same rules go for if the property was listed. And let's say the seller only offered $500 for compensation, and you're like, no, I want 10,000, right? You would not put 10,000 here. This box is whatever is published in the Northwest MLS of whatever's being offered, or it could be nothing. If it's zero, whatever's in if it's published, that's what goes here.
Is this line, I mean, the amount offered in the listing, if they are taking these, the amount offered off of the listing, are we gonna, this form's gonna get changed again?
We'll see.
See what happens.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the way we're doing things, Amanda, is actually probably the very best.
In Washington.
There's a lot of things that are starting to come out. There's some associations and other companies and nonprofits and stuff are really saying that that's gonna hurt people. It's
Less
gonna hurt buyers
transparency.
and especially first-time home buyers and
Yeah.
VA and a bunch of people.
Yeah, I
So
think it's a little bit, because the sellers, all those sellers didn't realize that they benefited from not having to pay it when they bought their homes, and now kind of they're in the power position.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about their journey from the beginning.
Well, you
You know
know,
what, in my opinion.
and that buyer brokerage compensation helps the buyer's agent keep the buyers on track. I mean, you know, it's in the seller's advantage to.
I know it is.
As we all
Okay, back to our scenario. You represent the buyer, off-market sale, okay? You would not fill in an MLS number, okay? Some people will type in the box FSBO. That's okay. You don't have to put anything. Doesn't matter though. But something very important, in the event, let's say, actually, no, I won't get to that yet because I want to keep you guys, let's keep us all focused on the buyer side only. Okay, so you would be marking other, see addendum. This would be blank because it is not listed. Then we would use our 41C. Okay, and we would be marking our very first box, buyer brokerage firm's compensation. There's no compensation offered by seller. It's either this one, this is, or there is no offer of compensation from seller to buyer brokerage firm in the listing. You would be marking this first box in the event the seller lists a property and they put 0 for SOC. So if you have that and you got a buyer who wants to write it up and you want them to pay the buyer's obligation, right? Then you would be marking the second box down here. You've been using additional buyer brokerage, buyer's obligated to pay. This is where you would mark it. And you would say seller has not signed a listing agreement. This is the one for our actual example. Seller has not signed a listing agreement. Seller shall pay buyer brokerage firm compensation of either a percentage or a dollar amount at closing. So that's for our scenario with off market. You're representing buyer and there is no SOC published because it's not listed. Okay, so you would have to include that. All of your other regular forms are going to be included in your offer. If the house is built prior to 78, lead-based paint, give them the pamphlet, or have the agent, if they have someone representing them, give them the pamphlet. And that also goes for the agency law pamphlet. Brokerage services in Washington, you got to give, no matter what, the clients have got to get it. If they have representation, let them give them. Don't worry about that.
And this is the 41C.
This is the 41C. Yep. Yeah, so if you had 0 and it's listed and there's 0, you'd be marking this one. And then you could still write in your amount. If the amount in whatever's in the listing is lower, let's say the buyer says, you know, I want 10 grand, or you have a buyer brokerage service agreement with $10,000 for compensation. And the seller's only offering 5,000 in the listing, you would be marking this box for additional buyer brokerage firm compensation. And then you would be putting seller agrees to pay buyer brokerage firm additional compensation of $5,000 at closing. Buyer brokerage firm's total compensation paid by seller shall be 10,000 at closing. So it's completely transparent on what the total amount is. Make sense? All right. Let's go back to our scenario. Everything else, you're filling in the same. If this was an off-market sale, you represented the buyer. The seller had no representation. Okay? There's a few things we have to do to really keep things, you know, clear. First and foremost, do not mark the limited dual agency. If they don't have representation, then it's going to be buyer represented by buyer broker. Seller will be unrepresented. If you have an unrepresented seller, the two things you're gonna do, actually three things, is one, when you fill this out, do not fill this side out on the listing side. There is no listing broker. There's no license. Don't put your same firm or lag number in this. There's no representation there. So don't fill in the side. I've seen this a lot. So keep the side of whoever is unrepresented, you keep that completely blank. Okay, the next thing you're definitely going to want to do is you're gonna want to have an attorney review contingency in the deal. The 22RA, and I don't think they listed in here because I don't know if it's a oh yeah, they do. So attorney review addendum should be used. Okay, so you absolutely should have that seller have an attorney review contingency. It's defaulted to 5 days. Actually, this is coming up on one of our forms. I think it's either, actually, I think it's tomorrow. Yeah, it is. We're doing this form tomorrow. So I won't be diving into this one because we're going to go into it tomorrow. But it is a fantastic shield of protection in front of you, our client, and the firm. I mean, it really is another thing, because if this seller all of a sudden wants to sue later, they're like, oh, I'm suing, blah, 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 I'm going to the attorney, we're suing you. I'm like, okay. Then the attorney gets the paperwork, they're reviewing it, and then they're scratching their head and they say, okay, seller, you had an attorney review contingency. Who did you have review this? Oh, nobody? Okay, well, that doesn't look good for us. You see what I mean? It's one of those things. It's just, wow, it's a thing that will seriously protect you. Now, thankfully, come on, let's hope things work here. We'll jump to transaction desk. Get this working. Let me get a active property real quick. Let's see. There's only 60 properties in Kent, all of Kent. Oof. Take this out. And that's ID. Great. Okay, so if you're going to do an off-market sale, obviously you're not starting from the MLS, from transaction desk. We're actually going to click on create a transaction. Name is going to be 5. Smith buyer, okay? Very, very carefully, the next step, which is very important, if you miss this, it's not gonna work for you. But in your template, we have a off-market sales, okay? There's an off-market listing. That's a sale to an identified buyer, which we're not doing. This is just an off-market residential purchase and sale agreement. We're gonna select that one. Our import data is gonna be realist. Put in the county. Go King. Put in our tax ID number. Okay, and it says add me as the buyer broker, and to use the wizard, we will create this deal. All right, there's the property address. We hit next. It might be kind of confused. We'll see what it does because it is listed. Put in today's date. When's our offer going to expire? Okay, closing date. Go quick. Go next. Oh, good, it didn't. So it brought in who the seller was. Right? We're the buyer broker. We need to add our buyer. I'm going to add an existing contact because this isn't a transaction desk class. And let's say we did Smith, right? Yeah. A lot of sample Smiths in here. We'll go Joe Smith. Okay. Added our buyer. We go next. And here's all the forms. It added in all the forms. One thing we did add a title contingency addendum. There's no preliminary title probably because obviously the place isn't listed. So definitely something you want to have in there to be, be able to protect the client. Does have an inspection. There is an automatic 41C in here in case you want to have the seller pay buyer's compensation, their obligation. And then look what's in there already. There's already an attorney review contingency. Okay. Law of agencies already in there and wire frauds in here. Let me open up the 22D and go to page 2 because I do believe we have some language I put in this that's defaulted. Oh no. Oh, we pulled that out. That's right. There is language if you wanted to add even further protection. Let's say you have a seller who's like, yeah, I'm willing to sell. I want 500,000. And you're like, I think the house will probably sell for 620 right now on the market because all these competing offers. Ooh, man, that's quite a gap there, right? If you wanted to add in some more protection in the deal, you can click in the box, add a clause, go to office clauses. And we do have from Kent North, we've got all these set up. And I think it has, let's see, where is it? No marketing, fair market value, off market sale. You can select that clause, hit OK. And it adds a nice little attorney drafted language for you. No marketing, fair market value. Seller acknowledges that firm will not market the property through MLS or otherwise, even though exposure of the property to the open market through MLS will increase the likelihood that seller will receive fair market value for the property. Seller understands that selling the property to buyer without exposure of the property to the market may cause the seller to receive a lower purchase price or other less favorable terms. So that's very, very, if a seller signed off on that and later on they're taking an attorney, they're going to be like, I don't really know. I mean, this is gonna be hard unless you did something bad and you really messed up somewhere else. It's gonna be hard, right? Convenience. It's just flat out convenience. Right now, there's a lot of sellers who do not want to put their house on the market because they don't know where they're gonna go. And they were like, if I could just sell it, maybe I have a 2-week rent back. then I can figure things out.
Sure.
For a month,
You bought your house for 150,000 20 plus years ago, and the difference between 800 and 900,000 is like, I'm already making so much more money than I ever thought, or whatever.
yeah. Or it's condition and no
For
one wants to do
buyers,
anything.
How do you even show them the house, or like, if you have a buyer who's interested in?
Yep, we're gonna get to that.
Okay.
I wanted to get to the how first of paperwork, law, questions?
No, I was just gonna comment, I think a big reason that, me and Land, we do a good amount of off-market deals though, is because we do provide like a true win-win situation. Where the
Yeah.
seller is always, we're like, hey, if that situation where the seller's like, hey, I want 500,000 for your house, and you're like, hey, honestly, on market, we feel that your house is probably 650, 700.
Yeah,
But so you're getting the convenience, we're not paying you that full 650, 700, but we're paying you a little bit less because we're taking it off market, we're getting it off market,
Yeah.
super convenient for you. We don't sell things though, like, yes, we got it 25, 30% under for a
Yeah,
buyer.
right.
And we feel that if we did that, then we wouldn't get a lot of off market deals.
Yeah,
Sounds
no,
like, hey.
absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of you guys hear it all the time. There's all these people out there.
Mhm.
I'll just call them people. I'd like to call them something else. But this is being recorded. They do these, off-market sales. They're called wholesalers.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it's equity skimming. Now there are some that are legit. I mean, just like any type of industry, right? There's good people, there's bad people in it, right? I mean, we see this all the time through anything, right? It's the same thing, but a lot of these people, they take advantage of others, They say, oh, your house is worth, I'll buy it for 5 and it's worth, 800. And then they go sell it to someone else real fast. They just make 100 grand, just literally selling the purchase.
Yeah.
And our MLS even allows people to list equity listings.
Yeah.
They're in there. This is the equity interest only of a sale. They allow it. Yeah, they've been doing this.
But is it recent?
No, they've been allowing for a while.
What does that even mean?
That's like you're the original seller, Shilpa, and you want to sell for 500.
Mhm.
That's what you want, 500, right? And you need a 2-week, post-closing, right, before you move out. That's what you want. Karen comes along and says, I'll pay your 500, perfect. And then Karen's like, hey, Jonathan, I have this house, it's worth 8, will you buy it for 7? Yeah, sure. I'll buy it for 7. He's buying from Karen. And it's like it's a simultaneous closing at escrow.
That's the equity you would.
That's and
You can list it like that.
you can list you can list the interest, the equity interest
But,
in the property.
but in that scenario, Karen shouldn't be a licensed realtor, right? I mean,
No.
some of these
Oh, they
people
can.
that are
Oh,
doing
no,
like,
they can, they do.
because doesn't that come up against the actual fiduciary responsibilities of having?
Word in class, oh my God.
It
Statutory duty, we have statutory
would
duties.
just be, she's not representing the seller.
Oh,
Yeah.
because you're not, gotcha, unrepresented. It's pretty freaking messy.
I don't like those.
This clause, that should be put in even when, like, that should be put in every single.
Well,
market.
no, I think it's a case by case scenario. This isn't a thing, but I wanted to show you guys that it is available. And it is a thing. I mean, it's the truth. Where we got this clause is literally from the Form 47 when we're gonna switch scenarios in a moment here, to go over that, but it's,
Seems like maybe if we're actually representing the seller in an off-market deal, that this
Deal.
would be more.
it's in Form
Appropriate.
47.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, 100%. But it's one of those things, if you wanted to add some more, if you're like, whoa, this is, I don't know, it's available. It's one of those additional shields. If you need to do it, you can add it. All right. That's about it for the buyer side, right? I'm not gonna go through the rest of the process of the off-market sale for with the buyer brokerage represented side, right? The buyer broker representing buyer. That, you would go through the rest of your normal process. Everything else would be the same. When it comes to showings, right, you're gonna have to deal directly with the seller. I mean, in these situations, if you're representing the buyer, buyer only, it's communicating directly with the seller. That seller is still, you know, under the same guidelines and rules for Washington State for when it comes to Seller Disclosure Act, right? They still have to do the same type of thing of any other sale unless they truly fall under the exemptions for Washington. So if it's an estate sale, then that, you know, then they would be exempt, but you know, same types of things. So that's that type of scenario. Last questions, anybody? Or we jump to the seller represented side only? All right. Now, you're representing seller. Seller says, oh, I want to sell, I have had my rental for 10 years and the tenants in it, they've been there for 5, they're wonderful tenants. I want to sell it to them. They want to buy it. Okay, that's your scenario. You're going to use a Form 47. Oh, hold on. I'm out. Let me back up, rewind. I didn't finish one last rule that was most important when it comes to that buyer off-market sale. Okay, your sale closes. Okay, within 3 business days, you must input that off-market deal. You have to input it. When you represent a client, you actually have agency to a client, which you guys can't work when you don't have agency to a client. Okay, little inside secret. Unless you're an attorney, you passed the bar exam and you never told me, then you can. But you have to turn in this deal within 3 business days. And how you do that is quite simple. Okay. You actually go directly to input. You don't even need to fill in, you don't need to sign forms to do input for this one. The one thing you will need is 1 primary photo. You have to have at least 1 primary photo. So you'll go to input. We'll see. Okay. And it's going to say, you're going to go add new. This is going to be unlisted sale, residential. There's ones for condo, for land, everything. You're going to go in, fill in all the stuff. Okay. Residential. And what county? You basically go through all of the, it's way shorter than the actual other listing input stuff.
Not even worth doing it on transaction desk.
No, you just go straight to input, straight to the input. And I won't be able to do it because it literally will take it and it will fill it in. But you'll do search. Oh, this is where you could try to find it, but you could start with a blank listing. Okay. So that was the search to try to find it. If it's ever been listed, you can find it. It will do that. But if not, you start with and this is going to be for sale by owner or other MLS. If you have a Vancouver, Washington deal and the other member was in Oregon and they listed it in the Oregon MLS and you actually represented the buyer, right? You can actually input the deal in Northwest MLS that you represented the buyer. So you can still do that too.
And do they have to be uploaded as an unlisted sale when the seller is unrepresented, like the buyer's agent has to go do that?
Yeah.
Too?
Either party.
Okay.
Yeah, now if the seller had representation, the listing broker should be doing it. Because in that, they can identify who represented the buyer
Great.
in the input.
But if the seller had no representation, then it's the
Then you're
buyer's.
doing it. Yep, then the buyer broker, you know, if it was you, because no matter what, if there's agency involved, that sale has to be input into the Northwest MLS.
And if it's not
And if it's not what,
input into the NLS.
that's a fine. You could get fined.
Fine for whatever agent didn't do it.
Yep. Mhm. Yep, so you'll put in for sale by owner, same, go to the general, and all of the orange boxes are the things that have to be filled in. Okay, county, You go through each of these. You map where it goes, fill in all the stuff, and then you will actually get down to the remarks. And then you'll submit the listing. Once you submit it, then go to it and add the photo right away. If you don't do the photo, you get the fine, the auto fine for $50. And the reminder that, hey, you didn't actually add the photo. So, all right. Same goes for a seller represented sale. You're representing the seller, you got to do this. Typically, think of it like a listing. If there was people representing both sides, whoever represented the seller typically should be the one that does this. But you might want to, if you're representing the buyer, someone's representing the seller, you might want to remind them, go, oh yeah, don't forget the 3-day, we got to get this input, within 3 days, so we don't get fined. Because we've had a lot of brokers like, what are you talking about? It's off market. Why do we had to get someone finally to do it. And we actually told the MLS, they said that they were going to send them a fine and that we could input it.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird because they refused to do it.
It's important stuff though, because MLS, the whole purpose of the MLS is to give all of us data to understand.
Exactly. We need the data.
We need the data.
Yep, we need good data. And then you would submit it and you're good. All right. Sorry about that. Had to make sure we kind of got into that first. Okay, Form 47 may be used when a property owner requests that the broker represent the owner in a sale to an identified buyer. Even though the owner has already reached a preliminary agreement with a buyer, the owner wants the broker to negotiate the terms, write the purchase and sale agreement, oversee the inspection process, and otherwise represent the owner's interest. In this situation, Northwest MLS listing agreement is not appropriate because the owner is not seeking a broker's assistance to market the property and is not listing the property for sale. The form should not be used in any other situation. If you have a seller who says to you, I want to sell, I want to do off market, and here's the 2 buyers who sent me postcards. They said that they want to buy my home. You would do 2 Form 47s, one for each of those buyers. Because you have identified, the seller's identified who wants to buy it and make it for a term of maybe, 30 days. And you can basically write in your compensation for what the seller will pay you for representing them for that off-market sale. And then you can go after those buyers. Now, what Form 47 is not used for. It is not used for if someone says, yeah, I want to sell off market. You go find me a buyer. How do you do that? I mean, you can't, if you sign this, it literally says what's, that you're not going to do advertising, which you can't do. You can't advertise an off-market deal, so you can't do that at all. But it says right here, the firm agrees to represent seller in the sale of the property to the buyer, who seller has identified as a likely purchaser. If you're using that, and the seller's like, yeah, go find me a buyer. You can't really do that. You could go find a buyer, but then it's going to come down to, now, who do I represent? Because you're like, who am I giving my agency to? Who is the client? Right? And we hear this a lot. Sometimes sellers like, yeah, you go find me a buyer, bring me a buyer. I mean, you could go talk around and say, hey, if I find someone else who has a buyer, can I represent you? I think you better figure that kind of stuff out first before you kind of go out and kind of shop this, right? And if you were to do that, I mean, you really got to be, start talking to your office mates and stuff like, who's got, does anyone got a buyer looking in this area? I have a potential seller. Here's what we think will be terms, I mean, you can do that. But it's very, very, you're close to the edge of the line, right? Very close. You have to give the pamphlet, real estate brokerage in Washington State, obviously, and your name would go on this. Seller will also initial for limited dual agency, right? Again, if it's off market, that one is really dangerous. You better think about this one. I'm not a fan of that on an off market at all. Here's the compensation amount. It's either a percentage or a flat dollar amount. Whatever you charge is what you charge. And then Amanda, here is that no marketing fair market value. That's the language literally from that clause. This is the exact same thing. Okay, and this form does a really good job about explaining the fact that it's not going to be listed, and that seller will still have to provide a Form 17 unless they're exempt under the RCW. And then, of course, damages. Now, even if it is an off market, you can still have a attorney review contingency. You could still do that for any party at any time, which we will talk more about tomorrow. Okay, we've talked a lot about the process of how, right? Now we got the how down for the actual paperwork, what you would be doing. Any questions before we jump to the next phase? Pretty clear, pretty easy to understand. Don't forget that this deal would also have to be input after it closes within 3 business days. And yes, you still need the primary photo. All right. We are going to jump over to our good friend Zillow here. And there are some for sale by owners on here. You absolutely can go after. So right now I've got the map pulled up, and how do you identify a for sale by owner? What's the fastest few ways you tend to see if you're looking online like this? Oh yeah, we're gonna use the search, but what's unique? What do you visibly see? That might hint.
Owner.
What was that, Yvonne?
It says for sale by owner.
Yeah, it says for sale by owner too, but what are these over here? What do buyers look at first? Photos. What?
That's a good one.
There you go. Why does this look like?
Night company.
They held their iPhone up and tilted it down.
Oh yeah. Usually bad photos is a good sign. That's one of the things I like to look for. Here you go. Okay. For sale by owner. I will click on the property. It says 950,000. Right? That definitely looks amateur. It's multifamily. The lot is in an R10 zoning area with 5 or 6 dwelling units possible. Currently, there's a duplex and a cabin on the property. It may be possible to continue renting the duplex while development of the lot is in progress. Okay. So Zillow does let people now pay to post those on there. They have a contact the owner. They've changed a lot of these things, right? You could keep scrolling, seeing the different schools. You see the walk scores, right? This is for sale by owner, API Nation. And they got an API to plug in straight there. Let's go ahead, and it says there's like 2 different addresses here. So the first thing you need to always do before you are starting to engage with like these types of properties is you need to first make sure it's not what? Listed. You can't contact someone who's got their property listed. Okay. So here's the address. We're going to jump to Matrix. I want to discard all. We didn't really need to do that. So we're going to search general. Oh, this one was multifamily, right? So I need to get to multifamily. And I'm not going to fill in anything at all. And I'm going to put in the house number 1432. And that doesn't seem right. 145 3rd
Yeah.
Street. Bremerton. 143rd. Unless it's 453rd.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that's hard. That,
Or Third Street.
yeah. Eh. Yeah, they put in the address funky, so that doesn't help. We probably have to get into the area, zoom in on the map. Let's find a different example, just so it doesn't take so long. But you could find the property by doing that. Zoom into where it says it is, use your realist, jump into the map, zoom, keep zooming in, clicking those properties, and you can find it that way. Let's see, this one looks like a decent one. Let's see if this one's got also 950 in Renton. So we'll go copy that address, and it's second place, it's southeast second place. Close that one.
It's like a nice house.
Okay, we'll paste that. Street name. It was second. Second place. Oh, I'm in multifamily. Put the 2, anything there? Always look for matches here, because sometimes brokers don't input the ND. Second, oh, we got 3 matches. So we can search those or hit the results. And we can see, look at that, 2 people, 2 listings from here. We had Helen, boy, that's old name. Does that look like the same property?
It's lane
Looks
instead of
different.
place.
Second
Oh, yeah,
lane.
one thing.
We're looking for south.
Mhm. So southeast, yeah, so I don't see it. So from here, I would jump in, now go look at realist. Take the whole address. Jump to realist. Go search by address in the bar. This is the new bar. And it will zoom, find it, give you the info. Okay, looks like they've owned it for a long time. 83. What percentage of for sale by owners end up listing with a broker? You guys know? About 85% to 90% of the time. Why?
Because
They get
they,
tired,
They get what, Yvonne?
tired.
They get tired.
They get tired of all the calls, all the inquiries of dealing with people not being approved. I mean, the list can go on as to
Oh, yeah.
why, you know,
And most buyers use a broker. Majority. When they see some for sale by owner, they kind of like look at it like, what's wrong with it? They're trying to like sneak something past us or something. I don't know. They just don't trust people. I don't know. It is a trust kind of weird thing. Okay, so here's the property. You could use fastpeoplesearch.com for free. Okay. On. Okay. Put in there. And nope, we don't want notifications from this one. And I need the last. My realist. Where are you? Others. Yeah, fast people search. Stay away from the pop-ups and ads. That's the one thing. It kind of, that's how they get the thing for free. And then it was Renton, Washington, okay? Do the free search. Don't click on this, like I said, don't click on ads in this site. It is free. don't click on them. You will get pop-ups and it's bad, okay? Don't, no matter what, don't click on the pop-ups. But scroll down, it actually gives some idea of some sales, different things. And they list their phone numbers, gives different addresses, but it's a pretty decent one. Yep, and try the phone numbers, just start calling through and say, hey, I'm interested, hey, I saw your property's list for sale. Hey, if I could get you that price and added my compensation on top, would you be willing to meet with me? That's one of the easiest kind of appointment getters you can say. Yep. But again, don't forget, you need to do a good job at searching the properties first, making sure they're not listed. You do not want to do that.
Zillow doesn't just give
And
the.
No,
the phone
Eric.
number?
yes,
Don't we also need to do the do not call list through the,
yep, you can do the do not call. Yep, you can use that through your John L. Scott site.
and then
But-
on the Zillow,
You can call
the
them.
contact
They
owner,
listed on Zillow. They're on Zillow.
right, but the contact owner, I would never use that either. Cause when you click on it in the small print,
Yeah.
Zillow has in there that you, subject to agents reaching out to you.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I would not be clicking on that one.
no,
So anyway, that's a way you can find some off-market deals to actually getting for business, okay? Now, when it comes to you trying to circle prospect, that, for your buyers, let's say you had a buyer who missed out on a sale. Okay? Very common right now, yeah. Let's see, we'll just take this property address. Let's say this is the community your buyer just missed out on. You can get with your title rep, which is going to be more accurate because they can put in and weed out the people who may have already bought just within the last 4 to 5, 4 years and less. Because they're probably less likely to sell, right? Maybe 5 years and up, that's probably the range I would, probably keep. So obviously getting with your title rep, bookwithchase.com. If you're not working with someone, Chase can help you do that. He's really good about finding those niche properties like this. But what we can do is do a search, okay? We can jump to the map, put the address of the property that the client lost out on, zoom in, and it puts you right where that house is, right? Now, we could, if this is like the community, they want, you can see, you can kind of see all these houses about the same lot sizes exactly. We could use a polygon tool like your John L. Scott website and just go and draw around this. I'm not going to be perfect because we're running out of time here. All right, get all these. All right, now we got all of that. And from here, we can turn on criteria. We can make this a search. There's nothing active, right? Anything contingent? I would be looking at every contingent deal right now too. You'd be bumping buyers if you need to. Okay, nothing in that. What about canceleds? Nothing. What about expireds? Nothing there. What about any expireds? Any cancels? Maybe also that were like really long time ago? Oh, there's 7. Yes, it's recorded. All right, we got 7 matches. Let's go to the results. We got a bunch of canceleds here. Okay, I probably arranged these by the dates. Let's go the oldest to newest. Let's jump on this first one. Okay, here's one. This doesn't quite fit that same property, does it? Must have drawn outside of it a little bit. Let's see. This is more like it. Ooh, opportunity knocked investor handyman special back in 2022. Look at the history. And it looks like they did relist it and sold. Okay. You can see exactly what happened. Boy, yeah, they tried $1 million for that place. No. All right. Okay, now we could just actually keep it on the history tab and you can actually go through each one of these if you want, just to see what has happened. What you're looking for is that they never did come back on the market. And here is one that actually canceled. And they have not been back on the market. So here is a great one. Which this was Nia's. So maybe reach out to the broker. If it's someone, maybe contact them and say, it looks like, huh?
He deleted all the comments.
Yep. Everything's deleted out of there. And that was back in 2022. So maybe they rented it, pick up the phone. This is like this is where you start dialing for dollars. All right, you're gonna start calling. You can go ahead and hit any of the ones that you that come up in this. Okay.
Call the agent.
What was that?
You say call the agent.
Yeah, call the agents.
Is that a good idea to remove the marketing remarks or?
It's okay. Yeah. This one's sold.
Can we, for cancel, we have to contact the agent, right?
Well, if you want to just go seller direct, you can. It's up to you because it's not listed.
Okay, I thought there was a rule between canceled and expired. If it was expired, we can go after the expires, but if it was canceled, we're not supposed to.
No.
A certain amount of time?
Okay.
No.
That's what
Yes. Go check the history of that of the canceled. You absolutely can go sell. I would probably hit up the agent. If the agent's there, call and say, hey, I've got a buyer, been trying to, they're dying to buy in this neighborhood. They got to be in here for this school. Let's, can we, would talk to your seller. Would they want to sell? Buyers willing to buy.
Sometimes canceled have more of a story than
Yeah.
expired.
Oh, for
There's
sure.
lots of extenuating.
Oh,
So it
for
can be good to
sure.
Call the agent because they might know the whole story.
Yep. Okay, so there's this way. And then, like I said, obviously the very, very best is probably getting that list, with your title rep now. Now you're taking our off-market letters, which we're actually tweaking one of our ones right now. And we're revising it to add a couple more things into it to give it a little more boost, for this market right now. And we will send those out. I'll get that done this week. But you absolutely, now you can send the off-market letters to just this neighborhood. So these are the types of things that you gotta be implementing right now. All right, any last questions before we end class? Anything else? All right. Hopefully you guys learned something today and gave you some ideas and some tips on things that you can start implementing right away. But business is out there. We always call it shadow inventory. It's there. The houses are there. They're sitting there. People need help and they may not even be thinking that they could even be able to sell. Like they think that they gotta wait until rates are done or, they can't make that move to Arizona like they want to do until they can, when the market's better or whatever. They don't understand. So there's a lot of things available. You can get additional business. It's just who's going to do it? It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hustle. So hopefully you guys can get out there and start using these strategies today. All right. Thanks for making it. We'll see you on the next one.
We're speaking to one of the agents behind Hayes. Who was that?
What, Yvonne? You're breaking up, Yvonne. Can't hear you.
That agent, can you hear me now? Can you hear
Now
me
we
now?
Yes.
Okay, you were speaking with the agent behind Hayden. I couldn't see who that was. Who's been doing off market?
Oh,
There.
Eric Dang.
Eric Day. Okay,
Yep, yep.
thank you.
All right, take care, guys.